In the first two videos in this training series, you learned how to create a BAS-GUPS project and became familiar with all the GUPS tools you will use to make geographic updates to your working area. This video will demonstrate how to import digital map files, for example, shapefiles or data layers provided by you, the user, into your BAS-GUPS project. While completing BAS, you can review and compare your boundary and linear feature information to the geographic map files provided by the Census Bureau. If you do not have shapefiles or digital map files, you can still compare your local geography, for example from paper maps or other records, to Census Bureau digital maps in GUPS. We will demonstrate this process along with the added function of digital map imagery at the end of this video. Examples of supporting spatial map files include parcel data, such as plots of land, street centerline files, and place layers, such as city boundaries. As listed in the Respondent Guide, GUPS can import a number of different file formats for supporting spatial map files and layers, including Esri shapefiles, MapInfo MIF, and MapInfo tab files. To import a supporting spatial map file, click the Add Vector Layer tool in the vertical Add Data toolbar. The Add Vector Layer dialog box will open. The File Radio button is the default source type. In this example, we are only adding a supporting spatial map file or layer. If you wish to add supporting spatial map data from a database, select the Database Radio button as source type. The default value in the Encoding drop-down menu is System, which is the value for English language files. If you wish to upload a supporting spatial map file with non-English characters, select the appropriate value from the Encoding drop-down menu. Under Source, click the Browse button next to the Dataset field. The Open an OGR Supported Vector Layer dialog box opens. Navigate to the location on your computer where the spatial map file and all its associated file types with different file extensions are saved. In this example, we are adding an Esri shapefile to the BAS-GUPS project. Select the file with the .shp file extension and the SHP file type. Do not select the .shp file with the XML document type. Please note, all the associated spatial map files must remain in the same folder from which the SHP file is selected. GUPS needs to access these associated files from this location throughout the process of completing BAS. Click the Open button. GUPS will add the shapefile, in this example, Local Places 12057, to the Dataset field. Click the Open button to add the shapefile to the BAS-GUPS project. You may upload multiple supporting spatial map files in GUPS, but you must upload them one at a time. The shapefile is added to the table of contents, as seen by the file name at the top, as well as visible in the Map View window. If the opacity of your newly imported shapefile impairs visibility of the Census Bureau map layers, you can change the transparency of your shapefile. In the table of contents, double-click the color box symbol next to the name of your imported shapefile. The Layer Properties dialog box for your imported layer opens. The Style tab offers options to adjust the fill style, color, and transparency of the shapefile. Make any adjustments and click OK to activate them. In the Map View, you can now better see your shapefile against Census Bureau geography features, such as roads and boundaries. To view layers separately, click the tick box next to the color box symbol in the table of contents to turn layers on and off. Now that you have imported your own map layer into your BAS-GUPS project and customized its appearance in the Map View, you can begin working with the shapefiles. In order to determine if there are differences between the shapefile you have provided and the Census Bureau map layer, you will need to perform a visual comparison. First, to avoid any confusion identifying the boundaries of your map and that of the Census Bureau, turn off any layers not needed at this time. Select the Zoom In button on the standard toolbar. In the Map View, left-click your mouse and holding down the left mouse button, lasso and enlarge a section of the map showing the border of your working area. At this magnification, you can visually identify the boundary edges of both your shapefile and the Census Bureau layer. In this example of an incorporated place, the yellow color box corresponds to the Census Bureau All Places layer in the table of contents. This color symbology is reflected on the map by a thick yellow line for the Census Bureau boundary edges. You can see different boundary edges of the working area, where the yellow Census Bureau boundary lines up with the boundary of your map layer, and where it does not. As with the Census Bureau boundary, the color of your working area is also reflected in the table of contents, in this case by the green color box next to the shapefile name Local Places 12057. In addition to the Zoom tool, you will also use the Pan Map tool for inspecting the map. After selecting the Pan Map tool button on the standard toolbar, left-click in the map view and, holding down the left button on your mouse, drag the map to view different areas. Using the Zoom and Pan Map tools, you will systematically inspect all along the border of your working area and identify discrepancies between the boundary edges of your shapefile and the Census Bureau map layer. As mentioned earlier in this video, if you do not have your own digital map files, shapefiles for example, you can still compare your local geography from paper maps or other records to Census Bureau geography in GUPS. To most accurately identify boundaries and linear features in GUPS and compare them to your paper maps and records, you will enable Imagery in GUPS. Because Imagery shows aerial pictures of geography on top of the map view, users are better able to see not only boundaries, but features such as roads and houses. With Imagery turned on, BAS participants using GUPS can better review geography in order to better make boundary changes and boundary corrections, especially when boundaries are not in the right place or incorrectly drawn, for example, through housing. In addition, BAS participants who do have their own digital maps, such as shapefiles, are also encouraged to use Imagery for better results. The use of Imagery by all BAS participants will help provide better updates to the Census Bureau for correction on census map files. In GUPS, the Imagery button in the BAS toolbar is used to turn Imagery on and off. When Imagery is turned off, a green plus sign is visible on the Imagery button. When you click the Imagery button to add Imagery, the green plus sign changes to a red minus sign. GUPS may take a few moments for the Imagery to load, in which time a progress bar appears at the bottom of the page. Once Imagery has loaded, use the Zoom tool to set a magnification to begin systematically examining all boundaries in GUPS to compare your paper maps or records. When zooming in and out with Imagery turned on, GUPS may again take a few moments to load the map. Here you can see that the boundary, as defined on the Census Bureau shapefile, runs through housing on the map. If uncorrected, these addresses could be improperly tabulated and counted in the wrong jurisdiction. BAS participants will need to refer to their paper maps or records and determine whether the error needs to be remedied with a boundary change or a boundary correction. Select the Pan Map tool in the BAS toolbar to continue to systematically examine the boundary to look for more areas where the boundary is incorrectly drawn. Again, use the Zoom tool to change the magnification if needed to better see map boundaries. Here is another example of a boundary incorrectly drawn through housing. The correct location of the boundary will need to be reported to the Census Bureau, so it may update its maps. While working with Imagery turned on, the Imagery button displays the red minus sign. Click the Imagery button to remove Imagery and display the green plus sign again. The next video, Updating Linear Features, will demonstrate how to add, delete, and change the attributes of linear features, specifically roads. If you have questions about adding supporting spatial map files into the GUPS project, please review the GUPS Respondent Guide.